Hello everyone, welcome to the Analyst for 25th of September 2023. So in this discussion we will be trying to understand some of the most important articles from the Hindu and the Indian Express. So looking at the developed contents, we can understand that the very first article is about OSIRIS mission, which is a very significant achievement for the humanity at large. Then we will be looking at railway infrastructure development in India, and we'll be following this up with India's spice route, that is about the Indian economic corridor connecting Asia and Europe. And then we'll be looking at the Five Eyes Alliance, and finally we will be wrapping up the session with the FPI outflows from India. Now, before beginning the session, as usual, the handout of the discussion is available in the description, so do check it out. And with this, let us first the very first article. Now, in this article, the very positive news is coming from NASA is that the very first asteroid sample collection has been successful. Now, this is very important because GS3 includes the awareness in the field of IT, space and so on, which is very important for our science and tech. The context is that NASA's first asteroid samples landed on the Earth. It landed near Utah. And this is seen as a very first success because these are the samples which we collected from asteroids. And this was actually on board the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. Now before this, let us discuss some of the very basics. Now starting with asteroids and what are they? We have to understand that the solar system was actually formed using or say by a cloud of dust. Now before actually what solar system existed, there was a cloud of dust, and when this cloud of dust settled under the influence of gravity, or when it became more and more clumped together, we got our sun. And similarly, when at some other places the dust collected together, we got the planets that we have right now. Now, there were also some other remnants of this formation of stars and planets which remained forever floating in the space. Now, imagine you making a chair out of wood. Now, this wood that you have is raw wood, right? It is not already in the form of a chair. Now, you need to do what? You need to cut down the wood. You need to make some precise cuts at some places. So, you will be left with some leftovers of the wood. So where will this leftover go? Obviously into the dustbin. But space does not has any dustbin of its own. So whatever is left over in the space comes to float around the space. Now we know after the formation of the sun, after the formation of our planets, there were some remnants that were the leftovers of the formation of the celestial bodies such as stars and planets. So these celestial bodies started revolving around the sun. They started collecting themselves in these clusters, and these are the bodies, these are the small rocky objects that surround the sun in type of these belts. And let me tell you, like our Earth, Mercury, Venus and the other planets, they revolve around the sun. They also revolve around the sun. The very size of these particles can be from the size of a particular 1 rupee coin to as big as around 500 kilometers in diameters, and likely around at 490 kilometers. The largest asteroid is known as Ceres, which is found in this belt. Apart from this main asteroid belt, we also have some other astray belts of asteroids in the Trojan asteroid belt, which is closely following Jupiter, right behind Jupiter, and in front of Jupiter we have the Trojan asteroids, right, and another kind of asteroids also. And in front of Jupiter we have another form of Trojan asteroids. Now these asteroids revolve around the sun, and we can find that also some of the asteroids are very close to Earth. These are actually known as near Earth asteroids. So we can understand that these asteroids can be very near, close to the surface of the Earth also sometimes, when, for example, in the course of revolution, these asteroids come in very close contact to the Earth. It can possibly lead to mass level of destruction on, say, the planet's infrastructure, livelihood and even lives of human beings and animals. So it is very important that we do scientific research on these asteroids. Apart from scientific research for making the earth more safe, we can also understand by studying this, the very formation of our solar system. We can also find where life actually came from, because one of the scientific theories suggests that life, apart from being incubated within the surface of the earth, it also came from the outer space. So it can be that some of the particles, some of the minerals that are found on the asteroids interacted with the earth at some point of time and became the source of life. Then we can understand that these asteroids contain various metals, various minerals, various rare earth substances such as iron, gold and other rare earth elements also. And this can be very important for space mining, right? So this can be in the near future a very lucrative industry also. Now there can be also instances of water, and if water is found on the asteroids, it can be a potential fuel station for all the space missions which are being sent beyond the asteroid belts. How can this be a fuel station? Because water contains hydrogen. So we can get hydrogen as a fuel if the asteroids at any point in this asteroid belt has some water in it. It can be also used for spacecraft construction. See, spacecraft construction is a very laborious entity. Especially, we can understand some spacecraft can be even bigger than the Earth. In the near future, we will be, constructing spacecrafts such as, space stations, which can be sometimes bigger than the Earth. So these are all the potential benefits that we can get from the asteroids. Now here we can understand that the asteroid structure is almost similar to the planet structure, such as we can find a crust, we can find a mantle and a core. Now looking at the various types of asteroids, we can see that the C-type asteroid is carbonaceous in nature. The S-type asteroid is silicated and rocky in nature. The M-type asteroids are metallic and iron, which are containing iron and nickel, and also various other rare earth materials. Now this OSIRIS-REx mission is to study asteroids. The full form is Origin, Spectral, Interpretational, Resource, Identification and Security, Regolith, Explorer. But don't worry, you do not need to remember the full form of it. Just understand how it actually works. Now see, there is a very interesting term in this which is known as regolith. Regolith refers to the dust, to the small particles, to the small rocks, metals which are found on the asteroids. So what this mission is trying to do, it is trying to go near an asteroid, collect the rocks, minerals, dust particles from it and return back to Earth. And why? Because one of the uses, or one of the potential benefits from the asteroids, we can see that we can do research on them. So this particular mission is dedicated to that only. And if you can see this particular spacecraft here, this OSIRIS-REx spacecraft has various components, but we are only interested with 3 components. The very first component we can understand are the various sensitive instruments within it, such as the instruments which will be capturing visible light using cameras, infrared spectrometers, an X-ray spectrometer and active scanning LiDAR. Now these cameras, these LiDAR sensitive instruments are used to map the asteroids, right? So this particular spacecraft will go near an asteroid and map the surface. Why will it map the surface? Because it has to go near the surface and collect some dust particles and sand or say samples. To extract the sample, it has to see whether the terrain of that asteroid is safe for landing or not. And also it is also trying to map the surface as to understand how these asteroids are actually made of. Now the next instrument aboard is the TAG-SAM. This is a very interesting instrument which is known as touch and go sample acquisition mechanism. Here the spacecraft will not exactly land on the surface of an asteroid. What it will do, it will extend one special arm of it. This arm is highly mobile. It can do what? It can stretch down and it can release high levels of compressed nitrogen. Now when high levels of compressed nitrogen is actually released on the surface of any asteroid or any surface, it actually creates a phenomenon known as reverse vacuum. Because when we release high level of compressed nitrogen on the surface, that surface itself creates a vacuum. And when a vacuum is being created, all the dust particles, all the rocky small particles will be get sucked inside this instrument. And this instrument will be transporting these collected samples onto the top of this sample return capsule. This sample return capsule is containing that container which actually landed at Utah. This container will be containing these samples and can have a weight up to 2000 grams. So it can carry a payload up to 2 kgs. And this spacecraft has actually selected the asteroid Bennu. And mind you, when it actually went very close to Bennu, it did something known as celestial waltz. Now waltz is a very special form of dance. It's a very classical jazzy dance, right? Why it is called a dance? Because we know asteroids are actually revolving around the sun. So this spacecraft has to revolve around this asteroid which is itself revolving around the sun. So it has to do a very highly specialized amount of maneuvers. And these maneuvers have to keep in mind that Bennu do not have gravity as equivalent to Earth. So it has also to keep these considerations in mind. And also we have to understand this Bennu is actually projected to actually come very close to Earth at around 2100s, which is almost after 100 years. And it can pose a very high risk to humanity in the future. So it is trying to study this particular asteroid well ahead of its time. And if you see, the diameter is only around say 490 meters, which is almost as tall as the Eiffel Tower. So it has chosen Bennu, and the spacecraft actually took from Earth in 2016. So for 2 years it tried to get into the orbit of the asteroid Bennu. And when it tried to get into the when it got near the asteroid, it tried to make a revolution. And when it did a revolution, it tried to scan the entire surface of the Bennu, all the important craters, all the rocky mountains, rocky hills. So it tried to measure so that it can identify a very plain surface, a plain land on which it can put that tag SAM and extract the samples, right? So it tried to spot a very safe landing site. Now when it did at October 2020, and it touched the ground for around say 10 seconds, and it extracted the sample and it went back to the Earth. And mind you that when it is coming back to Earth, it will be entering the Earth's surface atmosphere. So it will be carrying, or it will be having a chart of its trajectory. So it entered into this trajectory on July 26, 2023, and it went to a flyby. Now this flyby means that it is flying close to the Earth, and when it will be flying close to the Earth at around September 10th, it will be releasing, or it actually released the sample module which actually landed on the Earth. So it was released at September 10th, and this actually landed on the Earth. And after this, what will be happening to the spacecraft? It will do a flyby above the Earth. Why? Because it will be going to its next target, which is Apophis. This Apophis is another asteroid which is projected to come very close to the Earth in 2029. So we have to also study this asteroid, and that's why this spacecraft did not land on Earth. It was sent to another mission, right? So it will be taking around say 3 years or say 18 months to reach this asteroid, and also it will be doing the same thing. It will be again doing a sample collection and again returning that sample to the Earth. So we have to understand what are the benefits of it. Now this benefit we have to understand is that these asteroids, Apophis, Bennu, are near Earth asteroids, as told before. These will be coming very close to Earth. So we have to be protected around them, right? And also we can say, we can gain insights into how solar systems actually formed, or actually what led to life on Earth. So these are also about the space research and organization which are all around the world, which are trying to gain insights into this particular event. And this is a very remarkable event, specifically after the man landed on the moon, after our own Chandrayaan-3 landed near the south pole of the moon. And right now we are collecting samples from the near Earth objects which are in the outer space. And mind you, this is the NASA and the University of Arizona collaborated on this particular project. But these are not only the countries which are doing this. Even nations such as China and Japan are actively engaged in this kind of expeditions, right? And even we can understand that the ISRO can also do a similar thing in the near future. Now the next article is about the Indian Economic Corridor linking Asia and Europe, which was announced at the G20 summit in New Delhi. Here we have to understand, for GS2, which has a bilateral, regional and global groupings and agreements, this becomes very important for our syllabus. Here the Indian Prime Minister in his recent Mann Ki Baat, he told that the ancient Silk Route, which was actually prevalent in the ancient times, which handled almost all of the world's trade back then, will be kind of replaced with a new route known as the Spice Route, which is particularly this economic corridor. Now, what is this India Middle East economic corridor? We have to understand that this was not actually for the first time proposed at the G20 summit as a part of the New Delhi Declaration in 2023, but actually this went way back in 2001 when Professor Michael Tanchum of a university in Spain, he proposed that there should be a India-Arab-Mediterranean multimodal corridor, which will be linking Mumbai, Dubai port, Saudi Arabian mainland, Israeli port of Haifa, Greek transshipment port of Piraeus. That means, apart from the conventional land route and the sea route, we can have a direct connection from Europe to India's Mumbai, right? Now, what are the benefits out of this? We can understand that there are many strategic and economic and various trade benefits coming out of it. We will be discussing this in the later slides, but we can see here the route which was proposed is connected Mumbai, right? And it is going straight into the Middle East. From here, it will be doing a land route over Saudi Arabia, right? It will be a totally land route, and from it will be going to Israel, Jordan, and further to Greece and Europe beyond. So it is actually endorsed by nations such as India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, European Union, France, Italy, Germany and the US. So these are all the countries which have endorsed it, and also we can understand this will be consisting of two corridors. One is the Eastern Corridor, which will be consisting of nations like India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Israel. And there will be this Northern Corridor, which will be kind of linked to Europe. So what are the benefits? We can understand that they will be focusing on trade and an extra focus on energy security, because we can understand that Europe is kind of locked down in conflict with Russia, right, over its military annexation of the Ukraine. Now, Russia used to supply high amount of energy inputs to the Europe. And Europe is right now trying to diversify this energy requirement, and also at the same time, India is also trying to diversify trading partner, and also particularly to counter China. So it is trying to boost this kind of economic corridor. Now, what will be the network here? It will be via railway, ship transit, right, and a road route. So railways, ship and rails will be used. Then this rail and shipping corridor will be actually a part of an earlier initiative known as the Partnership for Global Infrastructural Investment, which is a G7 initiative which was announced in 2021 in the United Kingdom. And this is actually an US-led initiative, and it will be investing nearly around $600 billion in developing infrastructure in the developing and least developed economies. And this, we have to understand, is a US-led initiatives which has converged with India-led Indian Economic Corridor, right, which will be connecting Middle East and the Europe. So we have to understand the benefits out of this, as we have discussed below. Now, the benefits for India will be very simple. The very first is a diplomatic victory which was announced at the G20 summit. Why? Because here China was not, or say the Chinese premier was not present physically, but despite that this agreement was passed, right? So this is itself a diplomatic victory. And also we can understand bringing on table various factions, various political aspirations, economic aspirations on the same table at the New Delhi Declaration. It is itself a very good diplomatic victory. Then it will be boosting economic growth of India. Why? Because this will be creating more and more jobs, because this is about creating an infrastructure. This is about creating infrastructure, logistics that will be connecting railways, roadways, right, shipping. This will be creating a good amount of infrastructure. Then this will be also leading to better relations and better exports with other nations, right? So it will be giving rise to new markets in the near future. Another benefit is in the kind of ideological alternative to China. Here we can see this is the China's Belt Road Initiative, right? We can see here one interesting thing is that the Belt Road Initiative is containing two routes. One is the land route, one is the sea route, that we can see respectively, right? One is the land route, one is the sea route. And if we can see the China's corridor is trying to go across the Saudi Arabian Peninsula into the Suez Canal. And this is the very thing that India will not be doing, right? India will be going from Mumbai directly to the Middle East and directly using Saudi Arabian mainland and linking Israel to Greece to Europe. Now this is a very shorter route, and also we have very like-minded countries on this route which will be providing a very good rebuttal to China's Belt Road Initiative. Then it will be also strengthening ties with the Middle East and the Europe, because this is an economic corridor, and various leaders have also called it as a huge success. Specifically the US President Biden, he has called this route and initiative as an astounding success. Then it is also giving impetus to Make in India, Sagarmala and Atmanirbhar Bharat Yojana, because this is trying to be a very convergent economic initiative. Next, we can understand there are respective benefits for Middle East also and for the Europe also. See, for the Middle East, we have to understand that this is giving an alternative to Western partnerships. Countries such as Saudi Arabia, Israel, they can now be more and more dependent with the Eastern nations such as India, even Southeast Asia. So, apart from the Western nations such as the Western Europe and the US and Canada, they can reduce their dependence on them. Then it is also creating new economic opportunities. For example, Saudi Arabia will be giving their entire land route, right? And up here we know we have the Suez Canal, and this Suez Canal is transporting a huge amount of world's freight traffic. Now, if we are giving this alternative over Saudi Arabia using good amount of roads, highways, this will be giving economic opportunity to the people in Saudi Arabia, to the people in Israel who will be building and developing this route. So Middle East is also highly interested, because this will be giving a competition to the Suez Canal that is in Egypt, and also a substantial investment in Suez Canal is also made by China. So this will be also giving a countering initiative to China. We can understand that Middle East geopolitics nowadays between Israel and the other Islam nations such as Saudi Arabia and even Pakistan to that aspect is kind of converging right now. Now most of the Muslim nations there is kind of becoming more closer, if not fully close, to Israel. So they are now becoming open to Israel, and India is actually grabbing this opportunity to actually capitalize on this economic corridor. For Europe, we can understand this will be a very liberating economic corridor because it will be more diversifying with India and also with the Middle East, especially with respect to energy security, which strives to be less dependent on the Russia. Then it will be also reducing reliance on China because most of the European nations, they want to cut its economic ties with China because they have huge trade deficit. So they want to diversify their trade partners also. And also you have to keep in mind the larger scenario of the Russia-Ukraine crisis, which is a very serious thing for Europe right now, specifically on their ideological grounds. Now here, we have to understand that the path towards the corridor needs to be realized because this has just been proposed as of now. The implementation will be started and needs to be started with the success of the negotiations, with the success of the deliberations and implementation that will be taking place. Because there are some challenges. First challenge is the financing of the project because this is a huge project. It will be requiring financing, huge financing. Then coordinating the efforts of different countries is also very important because we have understand that Israel and the Islam nations have not become too close. They're in the process. So this peace has to be brokered properly. And also countries such as Turkey, they have also said that they will not be helping, or indirectly they have hinted, they will not be helping in this economic corridor because Turkey is a very close ally of China, and this economic corridor is kind of also subverting Turkey in this direction. So Turkey is also not very encouraged, has not shown much encouragement in this direction. So these countries also needs to be involved, and there are always security concerns, right? So these security concerns, specifically with respect to the construction of this economic corridor, the privacy rights of various countries involved, they needs to be involved. They needs to be respected also. Then we have to understand we need to broker peace in the Middle East. We need to be aware of the geopolitics of the Middle East because Israel is now actually facing the brunt of USA because according to Israel's Prime Minister's domestic policies, the US is not very happy with it. So US is kind of ignoring Israel as of now, and this must be taken, this initiative must be taken forward by Israel also to broker actually peace in the Middle East and also with reference to the Palestine issue also. So that needs to be addressed. And the new developments which are coming from India, we can understand that the Adani Group is also very invested and very much interested in Israel's Haifa port, right? And also India recently showed very high interest in the Greek Piraeus port that we can see in this picture. Now these maps are very important, let me tell you, right? Because these places and news often come in a prelims examination, and also you can illustrate such maps in your mains answer writing also. Right? Now the last dimension we have to understand, if we have to carry this economic corridor forward, can we link this to Southeast Asia? Can we link this with the ASEAN nations? Because then it will be connecting a very high economically active region of the world with India and with Europe. So we can get this amount of good interlinkages with this particular corridor. Now, in this next article, the Prime Minister has inaugurated 9 new Vande Bharat trains. And this is very important because infrastructure is a part of our syllabus under which railways are directly mentioned. So we need to pay attention to this development. Now the context is that 9 Vande Bharat trains have been launched, and this will be meeting aspirations of around 140 crore Indians according to our Prime Minister. Now what are Vande Bharat trains? Now let me tell you, Vande Bharat trains are totally Atmanirbhar trains. That means these are totally indigenous trains which are made in India. And these trains have tried to expand from just 2 around say 1 to 2 years ago. Now right now they are connecting around 34 routes all across India. So we can see this. Now these trains are very unique. Why? Firstly, they are made in India. Secondly, there is no locomotive in this train. Now what is a locomotive engine? Now we all have traveled in trains, right? We know that at the very front there is one very special engine of the train which is driving the entire train, which is driving all of the cargoes. Now in Vande Bharat, it has been replaced with distributed traction power technology. This is what? This means that each and every cargo, each and every wagon of the train is consisting of its own, you can say, engine which will be driving the train forward, right? So this is a very advanced state of art technology which has been employed. And we have to understand that there are advanced state of art facilities also, such as Wi-Fi, GPS enabled customer service. Then there are CCTVs, there are automated doors, and also the toilets are also bio toilets which are highly sustainable in nature. And also we can understand these toilets are vacuum based toilets as just the toilets that we find in our aircrafts. So these trains are highly developed, as we can understand, and the maximum speed they can reach up to is around 600 km per hour, right? So this is a very brief overview of our Vande Bharat train, which is covering almost all of India as of now, right? Okay. Now to give you a very brief idea about Indian Railways, the very first train in India we all know, right? It started in 1853 when a first train, which was a steam engine back then, started between Mumbai and Thane. The very second train started at 15th of August 1854 from Howrah to Hooghly in Bengal. Now, as of 2023, if we need to look at some good amount of data, in India we have around 1,23,236 kilometers of railway networks. We have around 7,000 stations, we have around 21,000 trains, we have around 23 million passengers, right? The total amount of freight per day, or we can say the cargo, right, or the various commercial cargo that we have, that is around 3 million tons per day. Indian Railways is also the fourth largest in the entire world, and also it is the second largest in Asia. Now we have to understand that according to various ranks of electrified length, right, we can understand India is having a total electrification of around 34,000 kilometers out of the total 68,000 kilometers it has. That means electrification of railway means it has more upgraded tracks, it has more digitized tracks, and it has better technology also. Now we know that railways in India is the monopoly of the government, because we have to understand railways is a very lifeblood of our Indian economy, right? We have various services provided by Indian Railways, and that is why the government has thought that we will never privatize it. So it is under the monopoly of the government. Not even India, even developed countries like the UK tried to privatize the railways for a few years, and they again returned back to become monopoly of the government, because railway is a very essential part of any economy, and that is why it must kind of have with the government. Then railways in India also reduces the cost for doing businesses, because these will be transporting goods and services and people for long and longer distances. And even right now, railway tickets cost as less as 5 rupees for as long as 10 to 15 kilometers of your railway travel, right? So it is also giving a very cost friendly manner to various individuals and businesses. Railways will be also boosting businesses because it is cross-friendly. Almost all parts of the country is connected by Indian Railways, so it is also a boost to commerce. During different types of disasters, such as natural disasters such as earthquakes, right, and to also biological disasters such as the COVID pandemic, we have seen that railways is one of those resilient, government entities, or we can say the infrastructural entities which always have stood strong for the country. Then we can understand that railways are also a part of our nostalgia, right? We all have traveled in our life at least once in the trains. So we know that it is a part of nostalgia that it gives. We love reading books during a railway travel. It also makes a very good recipe for a Bollywood movie, right? So Indian Railways is a very integral part and parcel of our Indian way of life. Now we can understand that is why Government of India has tried to promote railways over the particular period of year. And the very first initiative that we can understand is the Amrit Bharat Station Scheme, which was announced in the Union Budget of 2023, and this is particularly at modernizing our railway stations. We also have various metro rails in almost all of the metropolitan cities, and also various other tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities also seeing the development of metro rails. The bullet trains, particularly the first one which is proposed linking Mumbai and Ahmedabad, is also under construction, as we can see. We have various multimodal logistics parks, which is a particular area where roads, airports, railways all are connected. And railways is at the heart of it, because railway is having the largest networks, and also it is able to deliver goods and services and people at very low costs. We also have a program such as known as dedicated freight corridors, which will be constructing railway networks dedicatedly to freight trains. Why? Because in India we have congestion problem. We have many trains which are getting late, right? This delay problem is one problem which is facing the Indian passengers and also businesses. So that is why Indian government thought that we can have a dedicated track for only freight trains. So this is known as dedicated freight corridors, which are announced by the government, and the construction work is going on right now. There are also various sustainable and environmental friendly initiatives taken by the railway, such as electrifying with LED lights, right? Around 60 or say 70,000 coaches in Indian Railways have bio toilets. Then also we have to understand that around 215 stations are also certified with environment friendly management certifications. Apart from that, we also have locomotive procurement, wagon procurement from all of the railway central public sector organizations, right? And these are giving some budgetary outlets. Then we also have funds for station development, particularly under Amrit Bharat Station Scheme, which will be looking at modernizing our stations, which will be making stations, railway stations more accessible for even the Divyangs people, right? It will be bringing in entrepreneurship to the station via the one station, one product scheme. So this will be trying to, this will be by the part of the government of the day. Then the Vande Bharat scheme, or the trains which we have discussed, which is also a very good initiative which is taken by the government. Then the Kavach anti-collision system, which is looking to reduce the amount of railway accidents in the near future. This is also another scheme which has been announced. Apart from this, we can understand the amount of capital expenditure that the government is investing in the railways. And if we can see, this is always a very high number. So we can say that Indian Railways is a very strategic portion of our government and our nation at large. But there are some issues. The very first issue from the very beginning Indian Railways have faced is with revenues. It has been said that the railways do not often generate enough revenue to even cover its expenses, right? So we can see from here that the revenue is often almost equivalent to the costs. So that is one aspect, but it is actually for the service of the nation, right? So we must not always think about the revenues, but also at the same point we need more and more better trains, new Vande Bharat trains, better railways, electrification. So we also need funds on the side. Then we can see that the Indian railway, the Indian trains are actually seeing fewer and fewer accidents over a period of time, but still we are having accidents. The recent accident, which we all remember, that took place at Odisha, is a stark reminder of that, right? So we have various accidents, due to train collision, derails, level crossing accidents, fires, right, and other accidents. So these are also happening, which should not happen actually, right? Then we can understand there is high amount of congestion. If you can see here, these are the routes which see high amount of congestion, or say jams in the railways, and this is leading to many delays, correct? And also during 2020, 2021 and even 2022, right, India saw a very high amount of coal crisis, and this coal crisis was actually due, one of the reasons was the congestion of the Indian railways. Now here we need to take some issues right forward and look at the solutions also. We have to understand that every local journey, whether it be a short one or a long one, they have unique stories, and that is why also the challenges that we have seen before, they need to be addressed, right? So we must aim to make the railways more and more fuel efficient. Then we must be adopting innovative and environmental friendly solutions, particularly with respect to reducing the emissions due to Indian railways. And also we have to look at other reforms such as land reforms for constructing more and more railways, and also we have to look at developing the northeast regions, for which land reforms becomes very important, right? Then we have to look at multimodal transport also. If we compare the global economies around the world, we can see India is having a very high amount of, right, railways, right? And also India is also having a high amount of roadways, but not the inland water, coast shipping, or say airports. So we have a good railway network, it is well appreciated, but also we need to make this transport module more multimodal. As we can see in China, in Japan, in US, in EU, which have almost equal proportions of respective modal transportation. So Indian railways can also try to diversify into other modes of transport also. Now the next article is about the Five Eyes Alliance. This is in the news because the US ambassador to Canada, they have said that the Canadian Prime Minister, who has made statements in their House of Commons, was actually based on the information that was shared within the Five Eyes Alliance. Now let us understand what is the Five Eyes Alliance at all. Now see, Five Eyes Alliance is a kind of intelligence sharing network between 5 nations. Now let us look at the very origin. See, in 1940s, when the World War II was going on, US and the UK collaborated on various intelligence sharing modules, particularly when the Germany used to attack the UK and its allies, say France, and the UK used to decipher some of the information in form of say Morse code or in form of some cryptograms. So the UK used to devise various cryptograms and various indigenous ways of deciphering the codes that are being sent by the German. Now here in 1943, the Britain and US or BRUSA agreement was signed, which would be strengthening the intelligence sharing during the World War II. And in 1946, the UK-USA agreement was signed, which is a very strengthened way of sharing information, as compared to the BRU-SA. After this, Canada joined this alliance in 1949. New Zealand joined, and Australia also joined in 1956. Now, in 1956, this 5 alliance coalition was formalized. Here we have the UK, the Canada, US, New Zealand and Australia, right? But it was not actually acknowledged till 2010 when these UK-USA files were declassified. In 2010, it was formally announced or formally known that this alliance actually exists. Before this, it was not actually known. Now, it is a network of intelligence sharing. Almost all of the intelligence that takes place between these nations are shared, and according to the Canadian government website, it says that the partner countries in Five Eyes Alliance share a broad range of intelligence with one another in one of the world's most unified multilateral arrangements, because these countries have diverse societies, a good amount of rule of law, human rights and common language. They share many common ideas, and that's why they also hope to make good of this alliance. Now here in 2016, the Five Eyes actually proposed an Intelligence Oversight and Review Council. This will be doing what? This will be doing the all non-political intelligence oversights. Plus it will be also reviewing the various intelligence received from these countries. It will be exchanging the views which will have a mutual interest. Then it will be comparing the best practices. That means it will be sharing the best technologies. It will be collaborating on these best technologies, practices of, say, intelligence and spying in particular nations. It will be holding conference calls and also in-person meetings annually. So this actually has a very important role in this Five Eyes alliance. This Five Eyes role in in India-Canada dispute is very limited, because we have to understand that the nations such as UK, US and Australia, these share close historical ties with Canada also, because Canada is in the alliance itself, and also with India, because UK, US, Australia, they are vying for an Indo-Pacific strategy. They are very close to India also, right? So they are not likely to meddle too much in this. They will be maintaining a harmonizing role. And also New Zealand is also a country which will be not straight away condemning Canada or any other alliance members, because New Zealand is kind of also close to China, because New Zealand's exports are dependent on China's markets, right? Particularly the New Zealand's dairy exports, they are dependent on China. So they are not. So New Zealand is also not kind of likely to take any stance here. Now, according to Edward Snowden's 2013 intelligence leaks, we have to understand that there are various instances, evidences of the members in the Five Alliance nations spying on their respective citizens, right? And also the bloc. This bloc, according to this intelligence leaks, has various other third level intelligence sharing bodies, such as the Nine Eyes. Nine Eyes is including Five Eyes, right? Five Eyes plus Denmark, France, Norway and Netherlands. 14 Eyes is including Nine Eyes plus Germany, Belgium, Sweden and Spain. And recently it has been seen that Israel, Singapore, Japan, South Korea, they are also a huge amount of collaborators to the Five Eyes. So Five Eyes is a very influential group around the entire world. Now, the last article for us today is the huge amount of FPI outflow that took from India. Now, according to recent reports, the outflow is in the range of 10,000 crores. So it is a huge one. Now, let us understand what is foreign investment. To understand what is an foreign portfolio investment. See, foreign investment can either come through two ways. One is a foreign direct investment, where a particular individual or a particular company is directly, say, building constructive activities in another country, such as building factories, right? If this particular investment is building factories, this will be leading to more and more construction activities, more and more jobs, more and more employment will be generated within that particular country. It can be also in portfolio investments, such as investments in stocks and bonds. Portfolio investment means investment in various financial instruments such as stocks and bonds, mutual funds, equity, debt, derivative, right? This equity is another form for stocks, right? Debt is another for bonds also, because bond is one of the forms of debt. So these are all the constituting the portfolio, and the people, the companies which actually do these investments are known as foreign portfolio investors. Now see, what is the difference between FPI and FII? See, foreign portfolio investors are actually broad based. They can be companies and individuals too. But FIIs are, kind of institutions, such as, say, insurance companies, pension funds, mutual fund companies. These are specifically companies which with more stricter management norms, which more and more, institutional basis. So these are institutions which come into a particular nation and invest. Now, what is the cause of this recent outflow? Now see, we have to understand that over an 11-day period, a net withdrawal of around 10,000 crores have been made. Why? Because the interest rates in the US is rising. Now we understand that if you are an investor in India and the US, and say if the interest rate in India is around 5%, and the US Federal Bank raise the interest to 6%. Now what will you do? You will pick all of your money and investing in the US. So that is what is happening right now. The US is raising interest rates, and what will cause this, right? What will it lead to? It will lead to currency depreciation, because when you try to withdraw your money which is invested in India in rupees, you will be dumping this Indian rupee and converting your rupee into dollars. So this is some extra rupee that will be leading to more and more money supply in the economy, right? Or say this will be leading to more and more Indian rupee money supply in the market. So more and more Indian rupee with respect to less dollars, which will be leading to currency depreciation. Now this currency depreciation can be good for our exports, because exports will be cheaper, but it will be very hurtful for our imports, specifically companies that depend, or say Indian companies which depend on imports, right? So it will be leading to currency depreciation. And there are also recessionary fears, particularly from slowing economies such as Germany and China. So the investors want their money to be invested in safe nations such as the US. So that is why they are also trying to pick up their money and invest there. Now, it is also said that the Indian domestic stocks are also overvalued, particularly following the Adani allegations. The US investors, or say most of the investors, have lost their sentiment in the Indian market. So that's why they are also pulling out. Now, the other effects can be that it will be leading to more and more stock market volatility. Since these investors are going away, now this is creating uncertainty in Indian markets, right? It is also increasing the amount of interest rates, because we know that FIIs actually come in the form of stocks and bonds, right? And that means they also give debt to the Indian companies. Now, if they withdraw their debt, or if they withdraw their money, there will be less amount of money in the market. So when there is less amount of money, the interest rates will be going higher. And if interest rates are going higher, the companies will be finding it more costly to do business, right? Then it will be impacting corporations. Obviously, if the cost of business rises, the profitability will be impacted. So the central bank here, the RBI here, can take some steps. It can say buy Indian rupee. That means we have understood earlier that the rupees supply is increasing. So what it can do, it can buy, the RBI can buy the rupees from the market and supply dollars. So this can kind of offset and balance the situation. Otherwise, it can also raise the repo rates, right? It can raise the repo rates, and finally, it can also do capital control. That means it can say restrict some of the individuals, some of the foreign portfolio investors or FIIs, that you cannot withdraw your money, right? We cannot withdraw your money so frequently and so easily. So it can be imposing some capital controls also. And with respect to the raising of repo rates, you have to understand this can make the investors actually stay in the economy. Say if you are raising from 5% to 7%, and the interest rate in the USA is 6%. So this raise of interest rate can help the investors stay in India, but again it will be leading to higher interest rate and higher cost for corporations, right? So this was all for today. Thank you all for your patience. All the best. We will see you soon. Thank you.